Sure has been a slow Star Rail news week, huh? Not much going on, really. Got the new Evernight character. She's, kinda cool, decent on a caster's team, and you can even run her as a main DPS. Not sure why you'd want to when she'll just perform worse than Casterus, but new game mode, pretty freaking tough, huh? Bet the high spenders are having a whale of a time, though. Haha. How about that new Trailblaze story? Finally seeing all the Chrysos heirs. A lot of Chrysos heirs in this game, huh? So many Chrysos heirs. Are they gone? Can I start talking about it? Okay, I'll just give it a few more seconds for you-know-who's legal team to hopefully get bored. Alright, I think they're gone. What is this kit? What are these animations? They wrote a damn novella for this ability. They made an ult animation for the skill, and they made an entire animated cutscene for her ult. And they're buffing Casterus again! Well, I guess that part's not really surprising. We're giving away 3 Star Rail monthly passes to the community. Subscribers who comment on this video and at least one other on the channel will have a chance to win. And I'll be reaching out to the winners in the second week of October to deliver the passes to your account. Best of luck in the giveaway, and thank you to our sponsor for making this possible, U7Buy. If you're looking for a safe, cheap, and trusted digital marketplace for all things Honkai Star Rail, be sure to check out U7Buy. U7Buy offers the best prices for Oneric shards at rates 10 to 15% lower than other platforms. Here's how easy it is to use. Simply enter your UID and your order will be processed instantly. And when you're checking out, simply enter my discount code TOMMY to save an extra 3% on already low prices. Be sure to use the link in the pinned comment and description. Join millions of other satisfied customers worldwide and check out the 30,000 plus positive reviews on Trustpilot. Thank you again to U7Buy, your gateway to the best gaming deals, for sponsoring the video. Let's slow it down for the non-knowers. Cyrene is an Ice Remembrance support who will be released after that 4-star Dan Hang version. She's the only limited 5-star unit in patch 3.7, and looking at her kit, there is absolutely no confusion as to why that is. Cyrene is the first unit in Star Rail who has specific, unique power-ups based on the individual teammates being run with them. I know what you're gonna say. Doesn't Cyrene just have that for Finon? Ha ha ha. Yeah, you're the funniest person in the whole wide world. But spare me your jokes, this is real. She legitimately gives a different, unique buff for each of the 12 Chrysos heirs, and has additional bonuses for each Chrysos heir on the team. I don't envy whichever poor soul was tasked with making Cyrene, because they legitimately needed to balance around 12 different characters with completely different kits and somehow work with all of them. In case you forgot or aren't caught up with the story, these characters are Remembrance Trailblazer, Tribi, Ceridra, our glorious King Anaxa, Hysolins, Finon, Myday, Aglaya, September 11th, Cypher, Daniel Hang, Paramancer, Terra. Alright, who named this stupid? And Hyacine. Some of the more meta-astute viewers might have noticed something significant about these characters, namely, how they make up 100% of the current strongest meta teams in the game. So you might be wondering, by making the already best units that exist even stronger, wouldn't that completely uproot the balance of the game and make all past units instantly irrelevant, creating a dead zone in character strength while ushering in an unholy abomination of HP inflation? Well, I've got good news and bad news. The good news is that would only be the case if the buffs were completely and utterly absurdly broken to the extent that they fundamentally change every aspect of the characters. The bad news? That's exactly what they did. Want to see the buffs? Okay, here they are. I'm sure you're done reading them now, so let's discuss. I'm not going to make this video run 30 minutes and painstakingly go through every facet of Cyrene's kit and each different buff she gives. Let's just do a quick TLDR. She scales off HP, has a unique energy mechanic for the ult, which activates every ally's ult, and is universal for Amphorius characters. Let me answer some questions you may have. Will she be top tier? Yes. Will she be better than? Yes. Should I pull? Yes. Alright, before we get started, I do want to add a disclaimer that currently, Cyrene sucks. And the reason she sucks comes down to precisely one cause. Her ultimate takes an Amber era to charge. I do not believe though that there's any chance they won't at the very minimum make her ultimate drastically easier to activate, considering how she is A, the only new character in the entire patch, and is thus far more impactful to Hoyo's quarterly earnings than maybe any other character, but also B, she's Hoyo's golden child, who they imported over from Honkai Impact and has had more resources spent on their development than any other character. So for this video, I'll be operating under the assumption that her ult will be at a massively lower cost and that they'll more or less keep the general concept of each buff through to release. With this in mind, obviously I can only base my predictions off of personal theory crafting and gameplay that's definitely not indicative of her release version. So some room for error there. Now that we've got that sorted, let's talk about the big winners and losers for her release. And because she quite literally will affect every aspect of every character's place in the meta, we'll naturally need to talk about every single character in the game. And I only know one way of going about that. We have quite a few characters here, so let's just make this a whole bunch easier on ourselves real quick. Okay, now that that's sorted, who are the ones who benefit least from Cyrene's buffs? I'd say there's a total of 6 characters who will effectively have a net zero change. Hysolins, Black Swan, Kafka, Huohuo, and the Herda. My reasoning for this is while the buffs she gives to Hysolins are nice, using Cyrene on a dot team is an insane waste considering how much better other comps become with her inclusion. Jury's still out on whether dot will actually be any better as a team with her on it. I'd put my money on no, but it's irrelevant since she should always be on a different team that uses her more effectively. As a result, the current ensemble will still be viable, but won't have any direct changes from Cyrene, at least until HP inflation once again makes dot irrelevant because of Cyrene. And Herda will be relegated to the second best and not remotely close in strength option in pure fiction and nothing else. I actually want to add Sunday as a sort of oddball pick here. I actually think he'll still be a viable Harmony and Aglaya comps, though he did likely get pushed out of Finon and Anaxa comps. We'll be talking about them at length a bit later. So I'm not sure if he got indirectly buffed or nerfed, but he's one of the few non-Amphorius characters who you'll definitely still be able to use. Next up are the technically buffed characters, who theoretically benefit from Cyrene's buffs, but either in a minimal way or realistically wouldn't be ran with her at all. These are RMC, Cypher, Tribby, and Mayday. I was debating putting RMC in the made irrelevant category since in all likelihood you'll never use them together if you have all the optimal units, but I predict that she'll still be semi-valuable in the fairly common circumstance where you don't, or if you want to run something like a Casterus comp on one side and an Aglaya team on the other. Your mileage may vary based on who you have and, more importantly, who you don't. Similarly, Cypher's buffs are pretty nice, but realistically, what comp would you run Cypher and Cyrene together? Maybe it's just a lack of imagination on my end, but I can't think of any. Oh, and any comments about Acheron will be laughed at and then deleted. Tribby's an odd case where the buffs they get are fairly low impact, and it's unlikely you'll be running Tribby with Cyrene herself in most cases, though she's arguably the second best support alongside Cyrene for Mayday comps. Speaking of Mayday, poor Mayday. The devs pretty clearly would rather just pretend that they never added Mayday as a playable character at all, considering how whack his kit is and the complete lack of synergy they've given him with any unit since release. Continuing with this trend, Mayday's buffs are both low impact and temporary, so it's very unlikely that he'll be able to compete with the other mega buffed comps. So that leaves us with the biggest winners. The first of these is Daniel. Daniel's direct buffs aren't massive per se, but they're permanent and free. Depending on the content you're facing, you actually probably won't need him with Finon, but if you want to play it safe, free extra damage and shielding is certainly a W for Mr. Hang. And there are a couple teams where he definitely will reign supreme, which we'll get to. Cyrene is in a similar spot to Daniel. Free buffs that aren't the most impactful, but again, they're free. So while the direct buffs she gets are pretty good but not game breaking like the ones you'll see shortly, she benefits absolutely massively from the power up that the next two get. I take my thank yous in the form of Patreon memberships, link below for that by the way. Because Finon Cyrene, as I loudly proclaimed to a crowd of angry redditors would happen, has become an absolutely unreal, unstoppable force, literally. Instantly granting him all core flames on ult is one thing, but what do you mean he could stay in his ult indefinitely? On top of 16% free crit rate? Like, we get how this removes his one and only weakness, right? Told you so, whatever. I'm used to being flamed for being right. Let's move on. Continuing with the recent trend of my videos being ahead of their time and Anaxa snatching every other support unit in the game for his own team, Anaxa's buffs on paper are absolutely unreal. Skill point refund, extra hits, and 100% action advance seems like they'd instantly launch him into the uncontested top spot. But there are a couple issues that could hold him back, all of them relating to opportunity cost. The problem with running Cyrene and Anaxa is that there are some considerable drawbacks to replacing the current units that he uses: Daniel, Sunday, and Cyrene. For obvious reasons, sustainless Anaxa won't work, so we can rule that out immediately. Cyrene works so well with Anaxa largely because of the high amount of turns that Sunday gives him, and if you replace Cyrene, you don't have enough Chrysos heirs on the team to charge Cyrene's ult. In the showcases so far, it's been Sunday who got the boot, and depending on the extent to which Cyrene is buffed, that could certainly be the winning move. But really, I've seen a clip where Anaxa got 80 shots in a row off, totaling over 3000% of his attack, not including all the true damage and additional damage he dealt. And that amount of flashing numbers is enough to activate my neurons. Aglaya mains are absolutely feasting, and you know what? In spite of all my clowning on them in the Anaxa vid, I'm happy for them. They're going to be making a comeback in a big way. The new best in slot team will almost certainly be Aglaya, Sunday, Cyrene, and Daniel. Though it definitely sucks losing out on the energy that Huohuo provides, getting Cyrene's ult as frequently as possible is ultimately far more important, and you'll be getting better sustain from Daniel anyways. Speaking of ults, the buffs that Aglaia gets from Cyrene are without a doubt not only the single strongest that Cyrene provides, I think it's the biggest direct benefit that one unit gains from another, outside of maybe Super Break. Some of the showcases I've seen from actual solid Aglaia players have been absolutely insane, having 100% Supreme Stance uptime and damage that Aglaia mains could only dream of prior to Cyrene. Never thought I'd say this, and frankly, it makes me want to vomit to do so, but I think Aglaia might be able to compete with Anaxa now. The situationship gets even more toxic. Lastly, we have Team Pink, aka Castor's Slot. In a controversial move that surprised absolutely no one, Hoyo once again buffed Castor's. And yes, of course, she is the biggest winner of Cyrene release. Unlike Aglaia, it's not like she herself gets a game-changing power-up, but make no mistake, it is too strong individually. It's more of the fact that she has achieved the Star Rail equivalent of Exodia. We already had absurd synergy before with Castor's, RMC, Evernight, and Hyacine, but now every single unit and Light Cone perfectly synergizes with each other, so Hyacine and Evernight both share in the benefit, making it a three-way tie for first. I'm gonna be honest, I've been working on the script all day, and I don't have the energy to pretend that I don't hate every single thing about this, but here we are, nearly 6 months past her release, and she's still not only the strongest unit in the game, but will clearly pull even further ahead of every single other comp. I've seen footage of this team, and it's disgusting. And the worst part is, I know for a fact that she won't be getting nerfed. Congratulations Castor's mains, you win again. See you in 3 years when she drops to S- tier. This is normally the part of the video where I talk about how bad this new unit will be for the health of the game, and how offensively terrible of a decision it is to make the new best buffer only work for the already strongest characters in the game, essentially doing the whole we're buffing old overpowered units for free, except doing it for the newest, most overpowered units in the form of a limited unit. Yes, HP inflation will skyrocket, and every unit prior to 3.0 will basically be made irrelevant. But it's gotten to the point where I've sort of resigned myself to the fact that HSR is now just a game for spenders. If you're not about that, this ride might not be for you. If there's anything you could take away from this video, it's fuck Tectone, and if you haven't started saving your jades already, now is the time. Thank you for watching. More Star Rail videos coming soon.
Anyway, $4 a pound.